Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic interview by Geek Vibes Nation. I'm your host, Tia, and I hope that you all are caught up on the Loki series because I have the writer and executive producer with me today, Michael Waldron. How are you?
Good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So, on top of doing the Loki series, writing for Rick and Morty, you're also writing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You have the upcoming Heels project, a Star Wars project with Kevin Feige. So, I think my initial question is there anything that you can't do?
Yeah, there's plenty. I can't let's see. I don't have enough time to do stuff around the house. I'm just always doing press. No, not much time to write these days. I think I'm just going to transition full-time interviewee. Um
I could imagine that. I could imagine after all this that your agent is just like, all right, here, and this outlet. So yeah, but I mean, you're a hot commodity these days, and you
I've,
absolutely deserve to be because the
uh,
Loki show was fantastic.
Thank you so much. No, I've been so fortunate uh, with these opportunities, and I've benefited from being surrounded by great collaborators. You know that make my writing look way better than it is. So
So I have to ask, first of all, actually, let me say congratulations on an epic first season of the Loki series. Are you coming back for the second season to write for them?
time will tell.
Time will tell. Okay. Well, as far as the first season goes, I mean, I'm sure that you've answered this on other outlets before, but can you walk me through the process of, how you created this epic story personally?
I mean, it was a process of first kind of figuring out the emotional arc of this thing and laying out the roadmap for the season emotionally, where it was going to go with Loki. And then after we had that locked in, then we had to do the really miserable work, which was basically figuring out the time travel aspect. And that took several weeks of just, okay, how does time work in this show? What does the TVA do? And really just creating this time bureaucracy out of thin air. So the devil was definitely in the details on this show.
When you were given this project, were you told that there were certain parameters that you had to play within, or were you essentially given free range to write whatever you felt like writing?
Yeah, we could do whatever. There's no cap on your imagination over at Marvel. It's the charge is only you're doing the Loki show, make the Loki show as cool as it can possibly be, and trust that it will fit organically in with everything else in the MCU.
So Tom Hiddleston has played a Loki for the past 10 years or so, and he's such a fan favorite, and we've seen such an amazing arc for him already within the movie universe. What drew you to want to tell this separate story of this character?
Um, I mean, he's such a lovable rascal, I guess. like it, obviously Tom just makes the character so likable. And he's a character that you're constantly rooting for him to just do the right thing, even though he's going to follow that up with a backstab. Um, and I just think there's such a vulnerability to Loki, um, maybe more so than many of the other characters in the MCUs, and so I've always just connected with him. Again, that's a testament to Tom's performance, and so yeah, it felt like the coolest opportunity in the world.
What I particularly loved about the Loki series, of course, Loki and Sylvie had a great connection, but I would argue that Loki and Mobius really stole the show. Was their chemistry something always written in the script, or once you saw Tom and Owen Wilson perform together, you just wanted to write more scenes where they interacted with each other?
No, they were, that was there from the beginning in the script. We it was important to me that before Loki could maybe fall romantically for someone in Sylvie, that he had to first make a friend.
Right.
And that in a lot of ways that relationship might be even more intimate. Um and so that was the relationship with Mobius. And then of course we cast Owen, who's such a great performer and has such amazing chemistry with Tom. That just took all that stuff to the next level.
And I have to ask, was there any point in the script that Mobius got his jet ski? Because we were all really rooting for him to get that jet ski.
um you gotta keep a carrot out there dangling for the audience.
That is true.
They've got to give them some reason to tune in.
And what was the inspiration between having this really spiritual connection that kind of turned romantic connection between Loki and Sylvie? Because you could see the show working towards it. And so when it happened in the final episode, I mean, for me personally, I kind of said, yeah, that makes sense. But some people were like, oh, they're two variants of each other. So, I mean, where was the inspiration for that?
We just thought it was cool. And it was different, and it's the sort of thing that you can only do in a story about the multiverse, and they're two variants of each other, and it is odd. Mobius says Mobius is like, oh my god, you incredible seismic narcissist.
It
Uh,
kind of makes sense that Loki would, of course, fall for another version of himself.
yeah, absolutely. But I think going even beyond that part, it's that it was the right emotional story for Loki, and that as he softens in seeing Sylvie and in getting to know her better, it's a way for him to sort of fall in love with himself, literally and figuratively. Because at the start of the show, I think he hates himself
Yeah.
in a way. He assesses himself as a villain to Mobius, and Sylvie is a literal mirror that helps him, see who he is in a different light. Um, and in seeing what she's overcome, he can also think about what he's overcome. And I just think it's yeah, for many reasons, it just felt like the right way to go.
I personally loved it. And speaking about the journey that Loki takes in his growth, I mean, in the final episode, we have this tug and pull between Loki and Sylvie. What's the correct thing to do? And I was really surprised that Loki was coming from this genuine place of maybe we should think this through. Not necessarily that he wants the throne or whatever, he just wants to think it through. So, I mean, was that always in the script, or as you kept writing you said, let's flip this and make it where Loki has this truly non-selfish moment?
I mean, and these endings are always evolving, but what we wanted to do kind of from the beginning, this is an idea that came from one of our producers, Stephen Broussard, was that in the end, He Who Remains would weaponize free will
Right.
against Loki and Sylvie. The very thing that they've been striving for, he would use against them to break them apart. And so from there, it was just figuring out, how exactly that would go down.
Right. And speaking about He Who Remains, it was so cool seeing Jonathan Majors pop up in that season finale. Were you always able to grab Jonathan Majors for the finale, or was that something that came last minute, or, what was the decision there to include him?
I mean, I think we have definitely written, gotten down the road on the drafts as we were casting him. So we had a good idea of the characterization. What we knew is that it was just going to take an absolutely phenomenal actor to sell this thing, because so much of the finale really was going to hang on the shoulders of a performance of this guy that the audience hadn't met before, delivering a lot of exposition, which, as I say it out loud, seems insane. Uh, but when we cast Jonathan, it was like, wow, we knew that he was not just gonna be able to sell it, he was gonna make it even better than we ever thought it could be.
Yeah, I saw so many reactions online saying that Jonathan Majors was an absolute standout in the finale. And it was really cool because we know that in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania that he's playing Kang the Conqueror. So it was really cool to see him play another version. I love the little tease that you had him say where he said something along the lines of, "You think I'm bad? You should see my variants." Did you write that with the idea in mind that you knew that he's going to play Kang the Conqueror in the movie universe?
Absolutely. It was always he who remains from very, very early on. Certainly when I first sat down to write episode 6, I knew that, that was a version, that was a variant of Kang the Conqueror, and that what the TVA was trying to do was prevent an infestation of Kangs in the multiverse.
Yeah. And it was just so utterly cool. I mean, visually also the finale was amazing. What I thought that you did really well with this series is every episode felt like an episode. It felt very episodic. Where WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, while being fantastic shows, did feel as if they were meant to be more so movies that were just broken up into episodes. Would you say that your background in writing for Rick and Morty and writing Heels really prepared you to write this sort of episodic series?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it helped. I mean, that was absolutely a deliberate choice. It was important to me that every episode stood alone. That every episode, I think great TV, each episode sort of feels like a short story
Mhm.
that, when put together, is a rich, fulfilling overall narrative. Um, of course, uh, there's stuff like Stranger Things where that maybe that's not the case, but it works great. But in our case, I wanted each episode to really stand alone, and yeah, coming from Rick and Morty, where every episode feels very different from the last, that helped.
Right. And whatchamacallit it, remaining, well, first I actually want to ask, I know that you said only time will tell, but do you have any ideas like stewing in your head for where you'd want to go for a second season of Loki?
Um, we'll see.
Okay. I don't want to pry too much. Remaining in the Marvel universe while I still have you, I, of course, have to ask about working on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, how was that when you were tapped to come in as a writer and then work alongside Sam Raimi and Benedict Cumberbatch? I mean, what should we expect for the sequel?
Um, that was a blast. That was a the experience of a lifetime, and we had a great time developing and writing that movie last year, and then shooting it over in London, at the end of last year and the top of this year, and it was great. Sam's an incredible director. The cast is unreal on that movie, so um, yeah, it's a hell of a ride.
And I, of course, don't want to put you in the position to spoil anything, but
Of
how
course,
would you, I'm sorry?
of course not.
Yeah. How would you say that this sequel differs from the first movie?
Um, I think that Stephen Strange has been through so much, between that first movie and now. That first movie was an incredible origin story, of how he became a sorcerer. But now he's he's been through that. He's fought Thanos, and he's on the other end of it. And he's, kind of at the height of his powers, and so it's an interesting place to catch up with him.
I see a lot of people teasing online where they say, in WandaVision, Wanda was messing with reality. We have Loki obviously messing with the timeline. And people are kind of teasing that Stephen Strange is just going to sit there and be exasperated about the whole thing. I mean, will we get at least a scene where Doctor Strange just sits there for a moment and is like, why am I dealing with this?
Will we get the meme
Yeah, exactly.
going around? I think I think Benedict's great at selling the, kind of that Harrison Ford, like, oh God, here we go again, thing. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit of that energy.
I am hoping for that. Yeah, I'm super excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And one last thing with the Marvel universe. I mean, it must have felt great that you're writing the Loki series where you're messing with the timeline, and now you get to see what that leads to in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, how was that, just kind of writing these two stories that feel as if they should obviously connect?
Um, it was good, except for all the times in writing Loki that we were like, well, that'll be Doctor Strange two's problem.
Yeah,
Uh, and then suddenly it's your problem. No, it's great to get to just continue to expand the MCU, and to just get to lay another brick in that, that amazing ongoing story. It's a privilege.
that's awesome. Michael, while I still have a little bit of time left with you, you do have another project coming out that has nothing to do with Marvel, but also equally as exciting. It's called Heels. I'd love if you could take a moment to talk about it so that our audience can also get hyped about the show.
Yes, Heels, coming to STARZ August 15th. Um, there's no time travel, there's no multiverse. I'm so sorry, or you're welcome, uh, depending on how you feel about that stuff. It's a family drama about professional wrestling, in small town Georgia. It's a show about people sort of chasing their dreams on the indie wrestling circuit. And you know, it's cool. It's a show about wrestling. What more could you ask for?
Is that something that you have always been interested in, or maybe have dove into recently and said, I have to write for a show like this?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up a huge wrestling fan. That was like, I wasn't a big comics fan actually. I loved wrestling from the time I was a little kid, and I think that's really informed my own storytelling sensibilities. And yeah, so you know, uh, as far back I think as 2013 when I first wrote the first draft of the pilot, I just always knew it. I thought it'd be cool to tell a story set in that world.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. And I know that we have a ton of like huge wrestling fans in our fan base. So that's really cool. One last question before I let you go, because you're super busy. Besides all the things that I named off that you're working on, is there anything else that we should be looking out that you're involved in?
Um, I guess that's it. There's a little space movie down the line somewhere, but that's a ways off.
We don't have any information about the Star Wars project just yet.
It's a space movie.
Alrighty, I'll definitely bug you for that probably later down the line. But Michael, again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Loki was awesome. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be awesome, and Heels is going to be awesome. So just try and drink water in between each of your interviews, because I know that you're just interviewing away constantly. But again, thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Have a good
Cool.
day.
You too. Bye.